Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In the series of pattern printings, we have seen so many patterns in our previous videos. In this video, we will be solving this particular pattern printing problem using for loop, string concatenation, and also using string multiplication. So if you don't know about string concatenation and string multiplication, you can watch my video about pattern printing 1 where I have explained clearly about string concatenation and also string multiplication. So even if you don't watch that video in the while printing this particular pattern, you can able to understand that as well by focusing more on this pattern printing. So let's go ahead and start how we can print this particular pattern. So if you carefully observe this pattern, here we have two shapes here. One is upward pyramid and another one is downward pyramid. So if we can print this particular upward pyramid and downward pyramid and combine both of these, we can actually get this whole pattern which is in the form of diamond shape. So let us go ahead and print upward pyramid first. So for that, what I will be taking is that I will take a variable rows by mentioning how many number of rows that your pattern have. So statically, I will be taking 5 rows here. So if you carefully observe this upward pyramid, we not only have the stars, we also have spaces. On each iteration, the spaces are reducing and finally it reaches to 0 spaces. In this line, you cannot find any spaces, so that is how we need to write, that is what we need to have here. So because of that reason, I will be taking a variable spaces and I am assigning the spaces to rows minus 1. Why I am assigning these to rows minus 1 is because in the first line you can observe that we have one star and remaining are 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So because of that reason, I will be taking rows minus 1. Even this rows changed dynamically, this value of spaces will be also changed. Because of that reason, I am taking the values as rows minus 1. So now what I will be doing is that I will take a for loop and iterate through these values and by generating a range of values. So for that reason, I will take for, I am taking a variable I in membership operator. I will be generating a range of values from 1 till this particular rows. So because of that reason, I will mention 1 rows plus 1. By mentioning this rows plus 1, I can able to get the values from 1 till 5. So in for loop, what I will be doing is that instead of before going to print this pattern, I will make you understand how this for loop works here. So now for that reason, I will be mentioning spaces because first we have these spaces, right? So first we are going to print the spaces, and later what we will be printing is that if you carefully observe this pattern, in the first row we have 1 star, the second row we have 3 stars, in the third row we have 5 stars. Like that, the stars are increasing in a specific pattern. And the pattern, if you carefully observe here, is that first row having 1 star, second row having 3 stars. By this, you can observe this row is multiplying with 2 and subtracting with 1. So 2 into first row, which is of 2 minus 1. By that, we are getting this particular single star. 2 into second row, 2 into 2, which is 4, minus 1, which is 3. And 2 into third row, 2 into 3, which is 6, minus 1, which is 5. Like that, we are getting 5 stars here. Like that, the pattern is repeating until end of this particular upward pyramid. So for that reason, what I will be taking is that I will mention 2 into I minus 1. So by mentioning this, we can get this particular numbers here. So later what I will be doing is that I will increase this particular spaces on each iteration, not increase but to decrease, because on each iteration, you can see the reducing of spaces. In the first row, we have 4 spaces. In the second row, we have 3 spaces. In the third row, we have 2 spaces. For that reason, I am mentioning minus equal to 1. So on each iteration, the spaces will be reduced by 1. If I execute this particular program, I can able to see the result as 4, 1, 3, 3, 2, 5, 7, 1. So you can consider this first column as for spaces and the second column for stars. So we know string multiplication, by using string multiplication and concatenation, we can actually replace these particular numbers with actual pattern that what we have expected. So now what I will be doing is that I will replace this actual pattern. So here first we need spaces. Because of that reason I am mentioning space here, and I am multiplying the space with actual space variable. Later I am using concatenation operator, and I am concatenating this particular spaces with actual star that we wanted. So later I will be multiplying the star with whatever the pattern that we have observed in the upward pyramid. So if I execute this, I can able to see the result for upward pyramid. So I hope you can able to understand this particular thing. So next what we will be doing is that we want this particular downward pyramid. So because of that reason, I will take one more for loop here. For j, I am taking this time j variable in range. I wanted to generate these values in the reverse direction. In the first row I want 5. In the first I wanted to start with first, and I wanted to go till the value 1. So because of that reason I will mention rows, and I have also mentioned 0, and on each iteration I wanted to reduce with -1. If you don't understand how we are getting this particular rows, you can this particular range, you can watch my video about for range in for loop. So by that you can able to understand how this range function works. Simply by mentioning this, we are getting the range of values from 5 to 5 to 1. So let me print this j, you can able to understand. So you can able to see the values are 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because of that reason only I have mentioned this particular values here. So now we will understand how this for loop works and how we can actually generate this particular downward pyramid. So to generate downward pyramid, what we will be using is that first we need spaces, right? So if you carefully see here, we are having one space here, and also we have having two spaces. Like that the spaces are increasing on each iteration. So because of that reason I will mention spaces here, and I also mention the pattern what we have upward, what we have observed in the upward pyramid. The same pattern is also present in the downward pyramid as well. So on each iteration it was multiplying with that specific row and subtracting with 1. So I will mention the same thing here. So 2 multiplied with j minus 1. So this is what we are getting. So what I will be doing is that I will increment the spaces on each iteration. Spaces is equal to 1. By mentioning this, we can actually increment the spaces on each iteration. Now what I will be doing is that I will multiply the spaces with actual spaces that what we wanted, right? So I'm multiplying this, and I also concatenating the spaces with particular stars that what we wanted in the pattern, right? So for that, I'm mentioning star here, and I am multiplying the star with whatever the pattern that we have observed. So if I execute this, you may not be get the actual result, but still we can modify that as well. So if you see here, we are getting this downward pyramid some not expected way. The reason is that the spaces, we are using the variable spaces for both upward pyramid and downward pyramid. We can actually use that, that is not a problem, but we need to do some modification to that spaces variable. So if we see the spaces variable here, I am printing the spaces variable to know what exactly the spaces variable containing. So if you see here, we are getting the spaces variable as -1. So when we have spaces variable -1, we cannot get the spaces in here and also in here. Because of that reason, we are not getting the desired pattern. So now what I will be doing is that I will increment the spaces with 1. So even then we don't get the exact pattern, but still we will see. So now by mentioning this spaces plus equal to 1, we can actually generate this particular pattern. So even then, if you carefully observe here, here we are getting this particular rows repeating 2 times. But if in our desired pattern, we only have one single row. So what we need to do is that we need to remove this particular repeating rows here. So for that, what we can do is that we need to decrement a row in downward pyramid, or we need to decrement a row in the upward pyramid. So what I will be doing is that I am mentioning rows minus 1 here. By mentioning this rows minus 1, what I can actually get is that I will start with the rows 4 and I will go up to the value 1. So because of that reason, I am mentioning rows minus 1 here. I hope you can able to understand. So if I execute this, I am not getting the repeating rows, but I am getting some different structure here because of the reason of spaces here. So as we have removed one row here, we need to increment the spaces one more time. So if I mention one, two in place of one, I can, if I execute this, I can able to get the actual pattern that what we have expected. So I hope you can able to understand this particular program to generate this pattern. If you are not, if you are struggling to understand, I will explain one more time of how you can actually generate this pattern. So initially we are taking rows to know how many rows we wanted. Later we want spaces because we are having spaces before pattern, because of the reason we are taking the spaces to rows minus 1. So after that we are generating a range of values from rows from 1 to how many number of rows that we are having. After we are multiplying the spaces with space variable to get the spaces pattern, and also the stars with this specific pattern that we have identified in the pattern. So by using this, we can actually generate upward pyramid. So for downward pyramid, we are mentioning one more for loop from the range of values from rows minus 1. If we give 5 rows, it will take 4 rows and it will print up to the single row. So like that, we are generating this range of values. And again, we are doing the similar process what we have done in the upward pyramid. We are multiplying the spaces with spaces, and also we are generating this pattern of stars using this specific pattern we have observed in the pattern. So later we are incrementing the spaces on each iteration. So now I hope you can able to understand. So now what we will be doing is that we will take this rows variable dynamically from the user. For that reason, I want integer value variable because of integer value, because of the reason I am mentioning int here. Now I will mention input to take the input from the user. Here I am giving prompt to enter any number. Enter any number. If I give the prompt like this, if I execute this program, it was asking me to enter any number. If I give 5 here, I can able to see the result that what we have seen previously, which is by 5 rows. So if I execute one more time, if I give some other number, let's say I am giving number 5, number 9. So as and when I give number 9, it was giving the similar pattern what we have expected here. Here we can actually get the exact diamond structure by using this particular value 9. So if I give one more number, let's say I am giving 3 here. If I execute this, I can able to get the diamond pattern with 3 rows in as like a diamond structure. So I hope you can able to understand this particular program to generate this particular pattern here. So in the next video, what we will be discussing is that we will be discussing this specific pattern in our next video. If you can solve this particular problem, that is well appreciated, and comment your solution in the comment section. Anyway, we will discuss this particular pattern in our next video. To stay updated, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notifications to all, so that whenever I upload any video, you will get the notification. And if you find this video interesting, hit the like button, and thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.